What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another Mint on Card sales video. Lots of good price data for those of you out there looking to buy right now. I am not. I have a pretty significant balance on my PayPal credit, so I'm not going to be buying anything for a while as I get that paid off. But I do have lots of really awesome items at Collector Archive Services in process that I hope to share with you over the next month or two. But there were some really great sales, as I alluded to in my last Mint on Card video, that I did not have time to get to. So I wanted to get to them in this video, and it covers the gamut, everything from early card backs all the way through to Power of the Force and droids and Ewoks figures. So let's go ahead and take a look. We've got a number of really great items here. So this is a 12-back C. Obi-Wan Kenobi, and this was listed by Neat Stuff Collectibles, and this seller had some items in the last video I had. I have never bought from this seller, but I'm pretty sure that I follow Neat Stuff Collectibles on Instagram, and I know he follows me because we've chatted briefly on some of the items in my collection. So shout out to you, Neat Stuff. I hope that you enjoyed getting some of the significant prices that you got on these incredible items that you listed. And this card had quite a bit of curl to it, but you know, I think, as I've mentioned in past videos, in a star case, if you leave it for a couple of weeks, it'll probably straighten right out. I've even seen some people use like stacks of books placed very, very carefully on them, and it really does straighten out the card. This one did have a price sticker residue in the upper left-hand corner, but it was unpunched in a beautiful condition. 12-back C, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It was listed as C8 condition, and again, you know, it had some card curl to it, so you know, probably a C8. That's probably about right. But look how beautiful the condition of that blister was. Absolutely flawless looking. This is the white-haired Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obviously, he also came with a light gray hair and a dark gray hair version on different card backs. But this one sold for $860 plus $10 shipping. And, you know, quite honestly, given the prices of 12 backs and what they've done over the last couple of years, this doesn't seem that far out of line, especially given some of the high-grade examples we've seen sell here recently. So, really great looking item. This price really surprised me. 12-back C Han Solo, but it was the small head version, and we all know that that one can be pretty expensive, just given that they made a running change with the larger head version for later releases. This one did have a price sticker in the upper left-hand corner. Service merchandise. Which of you guys remember service merchandise? It was a punched example, but the card was in pretty fantastic condition overall. And there is that small head Han. Beautiful long play logo there. This one sold for $2,247. Just a really, really large number. It was advertised as C8 condition. And, you know, I would say 8.5 condition. I think in general, this is probably like an 80 grade. You know, it did have some light creases in the lower right-hand corner on the back of the card back. But nevertheless, I mean, you know, anything small head Han mint on card, you're going to be paying some big money for. And that one was certainly no exception. That's a big price. Next up was an R2-D2 on the 12-back C. It was unpunched. It also did have that service merchandise sticker. It also did, unfortunately, have some yellowing to the blister, some dings to the blister, quite a bit of wear to the stem, as you can see there. So this is probably at best a 70, maybe 75 grade yellowed condition, obviously with that blister. And the price reflected that. You know, it sold quite a bit lower than where clear blister 12-back Cs will sell. This one sold for $785 on 46 bids. Lots of action on this one. Now, if this was like 80 grade condition with a clear blister, this is probably closer to $1,000, maybe even as high as $1,200. Already graded, probably even higher than that. So this is probably right in line with market. Next up, we've got some beautiful 20-backs. This is a 20-back D. Free Boba Fett offer, Walrus Man. It did have a price sticker and it was unpunched. Pretty great condition. It was advertised as C9 condition, probably a little high. It had a ding on the blister in the upper right-hand corner, as you can see there, but still, this is just a fantastic looking card back. Pretty timeless card, and you can see the back there. It has that rocket firing mechanism kind of animation on the back that's been blacked out, as we've seen on a number of different 20-backs. That one sold for $670, though. I thought, again, that price was very fair. AFA 80 examples usually command $1,000 plus, if not higher. So I think that is appropriately discounted, given that it's ungraded and it did have some dings to the blister. Next up was a Hammerhead. It was C8.5 was how it was advertised. It did have a pretty pronounced crease in the lower right-hand corner by the Kenner logo, as you can see. Blister was in great shape overall, though, and nice and crystal clear. Zare price sticker, again, it was punched, excuse me. $657 and change plus $10 shipping. Took that one home. And again, I think that price was pretty fair, just given the very slight condition issues. It probably grayed out at about an 80, maybe 75 plus. Next up was the Death Star droid. It was advertised as C8.5 condition. The only thing that concerned me on this one was on the right-hand side of the blister. It looks like it's either maybe slightly peeling off, or it just could be some shaving when that blister was attached, but you can see some kind of defects there to the blister. Slight indentation on the very top of the blister potentially, but overall very, very clean looking. Unpunched again with the Zare price sticker, but probably would grade an 80, I would say overall. That one sold for $625, and that seems to be about the going rate for a number of the different 20-backs that are non-key characters like Han Solo, Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, people like that. Some of these secondary first 20, 21 figures, it seems to be ungraded in pretty good condition. You're talking $600 to $700, so that was kind of right in line with expectations. Next up was Luke X-Wing. It was advertised as C8 condition. It was punched again with that Zare price sticker. Just some gorgeous examples of these early card backs that this seller had. The blister was in fantastic shape, crystal clear. Here's the back, same card back with that blacked out sticker on the back, 20D, and that one sold for $885, which again I think is very fair for a Luke X-Wing. It's a key character. It's obviously not the farm boy. The farm boy would probably sell easily double, if not higher, in the same condition. So I think for the Luke X-Wing, weapon still in his hand, it probably would grade out at an 80 all day long. And I think a very fair price for that one. Next up, this seller had the 31A Imperial Stormtrooper in the Hoth Battle Gear. So this is the debut card. Now, it was punched, and again, it had a price sticker. It was a Kmart price sticker, and the blister was in great shape, probably an 80 grade overall. But you're going to be paying big money. It's always big money for the Hoth Stormtrooper in high grade on the debut card. $862 took that one home. Pretty awesome example. I believe there was a 41 back on Hakes that sold. That was an AFA 80 that was also punched. And, it's a later card back, admittedly, but, anything kind of Empire Strikes Back with the Hoth Stormtrooper on there, clear blister, $750 to $850 all day long. And obviously this one sold for a little bit higher, given that it was the debut card. Next up was a very desirable debut card for IG-88. I was shocked by this final sales price, but I guess I shouldn't be. It was advertised as C8.5 condition, and I'd agree with that one. This is an absolutely gorgeous example of IG-88. Maybe a little bit of wave to the blister there on the right-hand side by his arm, but look at that blister, crystal clear, unpunched with the Kmart price sticker. It looks like it's kind of faded off. The actual price is faded off on that one, but the debut IG-88 31 back A easily commands $1,000, and this one went well above that. $1,283 took that home. For an ungraded debut card IG-88, to me that seems a little high, although it was in pretty pristine condition. I mean, to me, I could see that price for an AFA 80 already graded, but you're taking the grading risk that there's no defects that you can't see. The back of the card looked immaculate, so somebody was willing to pay up for that one, and it's a pretty awesome item. I've got the 32 back B, I believe, in an AFA 75 plus, but again, it's just really tough to find this 31 back A for the IG-88, and it just seems like that those debut cards, whatever the normal going rate is for some of the later Empire Strikes Back figures, if it's the debut card, add 25 to 40%, just depending on the character. But what a gorgeous example. Next up, this is a very tough one to find, as I've talked about in past videos. This is Dengar, but it's on the 41 back C. And I've got the 41 back E, and the difference is that instead of the characters having their each individual squares, like you see on the back of this card back, the 41 back E has one big square that's blue that has all of the characters inside it instead of individual squares. So Anyway, this one is tougher to find, I've found, and it was kind of a partially punched, partially unpunched, or whatever you want to call it. Maybe some light yellowing. You can see some slight dings on the left-hand side of the blister there by his arm. So probably an overall 75 plus, maybe a low-grade 80 for this one, but it was yellowed. It was a yellowed blister, which does happen with the Dengar. It does have that Kmart price sticker again, but this one sold for $325, which I actually thought was a pretty good buy. Dengar on the 41C, just keep an eye out. If you like Dengar like I do, the 41C is tough to find, but that's the second one we've seen sell in the last month or so on eBay. But I can tell you that just from being a guy who's been kind of watching mint on card Dengars, that the 41C is much harder to find than the 41 back E or even the 41 back A with the survival kit offer. So $325 I think was very fair, just given the slight condition issues for that one. Next up was the 41 back C offerless Imperial Commander. It said C and a half. C8.5 condition, and it looks like it has some slight yellowing to the blister, very faint though. The weapon was still attached to the tape inside the blister. It was punched with, again, that Kmart price sticker, but a pretty nice looking example. Would probably grade out at a yellowed 80, would be my guess. That one sold for $265, which I thought was actually a pretty good price. I recently picked up the 47 back Forlom offer for this same character, the Imperial Commander, and I paid about the same price, but mine will probably grade higher, and mine was unpunched, and it did have a clear blister. So curious to see what that comes back with, but I got that one at Hakes, and again, I paid about the same price for mine. Next up is Luke Skywalker Bespin Fatigues. This is the 41 back D offerless. Beautiful example. This one said C9 condition. I think that might be maybe a little high. It's probably more like an 80 grade overall. But still, it's a really nice example, and it's Luke Bespin. It did have some discoloration to the torso, which does happen, and something we've talked about in past videos. Even inside the blister on these mint on card Luke Bespins, it's just something about the plastic they use in certain factories over in Hong Kong that caused that torso to discolor over time relative to the limbs. So you can see that very distinctive difference between the torso and the limbs there on that one. But this is kind of the... I think this one looks like the dirty blonde hair. I can't tell. It's maybe the mustard color. It could just be, degradation of the yellow hair. I don't know. But anyway, just some slight dings here and there to it, but a pretty nice example overall. $810. I think that's a pretty good price. I mean, usually in high grade, these can command $1,000 to $1,500 all day long. Certainly more for the debut card on the 31 backs, but... wow, what an awesome looking example. 41 back D Luke Bespin for $810. Next up was the 48 back B. And the difference between the 48 B and C is that Revenge of the Jedi. On the 48 back Cs, they're printed on the card, but on the 48 back Bs, they're just actual stickers that were applied randomly on the card. And you can see that one's kind of an unfortunate location on that one, but this one did have some yellowing to the blister, so keep that in mind for this Zuckuss. And it was unpunched with the Kmart price sticker. That one sold for $415. Now, if this had been a clear blister, I think that you could probably get $600 to $800 all day long for that one. But pretty nice example. So that's the 48 back B. Here's the 48 back C. So this is printed on the card back, I believe. And this is for Forlom. Again, yellowed blister with some slight waves to the very top of the blister there. It was unpunched with the Kmart price sticker. Here's the back of it with the free Admiral Akbar mail-away offer. And that one sold for $410. And again, if this one had been a clear blister, I think it would have probably been closer to double that price. This is not the debut card for Forlom, but this is kind of the poor man's debut card. There are some very rare offerless Empire Strikes Back Forloms that I've been told are out there, but in very few numbers. But the poor man's version would be this 48C debut card. Lots of these out there, but it just depends on the condition. But $410, again, I think was very fair for that one. Next up was a 65 back A Jawa. This one was unpunched. It did have some slight creases over by the hang tab, but again, unpunched with the Toys R Us price sticker. And I think, I'm not positive, but it looks like the blister either has very faint yellowing or it could be a clear blister. It just might be reflections because of, behind that blister is a yellow square. So, it's tough to tell whether that one is clear or not. But the 65 back A Jawa very commonly stays clear, though. So this is one that you can definitely find pretty readily. And this one was listed for a long time. It sold for $425 after sitting on the market for, I'd say, about a month and a half or so. But pretty nice looking example. Again, it was unpunched, but it did have some wear around the hang tab. Probably overall a 75, maybe a low grade 80 on that one. Next up was a clear blister, General Madine 65 back B. Tough to find this one in a clear blister. It was graded by Collector Archive Services. The subgrades were 85, 85, 80 for an overall 85, but crystal clear blister. Very difficult to find General Madine on a clear blister. I don't know why, but it was unpunched with no price sticker as well. And it was listed for $500, and it did not stay on the market very long. It only stayed on the market for less than 24 hours before it did sell. So clearly somebody was willing to pay a pretty massive premium for the clear blister on the General Madine, but a really nice looking example. That looks like the molded face Hong Kong. There is also a painted face Hong Kong, as well as obviously the Taiwan green hair, the Taiwan flesh face non-green hair. There's also a no COO, as well as a Lily Letty made in Mexico variant for the General Madine. So congrats whoever got that one. Next up was a beautiful Lumat. These pictures were awfully crystal clear. This is the 79 back Anakin Skywalker offer. And all of the Lumats were made down in Mexico. So on the back of the card, usually what you'll see is figures made in Mexico, as you see there on that offer. And then also right near the Anakin picture, you'll see that factory hole punch. And we've talked about this as well, that any of the made in Mexico Lily Lettys for the U.S. market, they did have that factory hole punch that went through on the back of the card. So if you see that, that's not a defect. That's actually applied at the factory. Now, one random variation that you will see for some of these made in Mexico Lumats and Paplus are the sticker that goes over top on the back of the card, and it'll say figures made in Hong Kong. But it's not. It's actually a Lily Letty card back with the incorrect sticker applied on the back. So this one is correct. This one's printed on there, and this one has the figures made in Mexico. But I have seen, very rarely, some of these Lily Letty card backs with a Hong Kong sticker applied on the back. But any Lumat that you see, whether it's for the U.S. market or the very rare Lily Lettys for the Mexican market, those are all made down in Mexico in the Lily Letty factory. Even the Canadian card backs are made down in Mexico. So that's a really nice example, though. Crystal clear blister, which is usually the case with those blisters from the Lily Letty factory. That one sold for $165, which I thought was a fantastic deal for a last 17 Lumat. I mean, oftentimes those Lumats can sell loose, ungraded for that price. One thing to note is that the torso on Lumat does discolor sometimes, and that's the case with this one. You can see very clearly there's some yellowing to the torso relative to the arms and legs on that one. So even inside the blister, those do discolor over time. Next up was an Ewoks. This was a UKG yellowed 85% French-Canadian King Gorniche. This was unpunched, but a beautiful Canadian card. Moderate yellowing to it, but overall presents really nicely. Pretty great card back there. I don't know why. I'm starting to really like the Ewoks card backs. There's something about that animated style that's just visually eye appealing. And again, it was a yellowed 85, 85, 85, 90 were the subscores on that one. That one sold in an auction for 199 pounds, which is $246 US dollars plus shipping. So even if you got this shipped over here to the U.S. using the global shipping program, that's still only $300. That's not a bad price at all for a nice Canadian unpunched King Gorniche. Finally, I had to show this one. This was a gorgeous Power of the Force Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. Fairly pronounced yellowing to the blister on this one, but the subscores 85, 85, 80 for an overall 85, 92 back Power of the Force Luke Jedi. So you knew this one was going to go for big money. I was expecting about $1,000, maybe at the upper end, $1,100, but that sold for $1,377 plus shipping. So big money on a Luke Skywalker Power of the Force. That's the highest price I've seen for in a while for a Luke Jedi Knight Power of the Force high grade example. But wow, what an awesome beauty there. Anyway, that's all I really had for this video. The prices were kind of all over the map. As you can see, there were some good deals, but there were some that definitely still sold above my expectations. And there just seems to be no slowdown at all for mint on card vintage Star Wars figures, whether they're graded or ungraded. There's still quite a bit of demand out there, and the prices reflect that. Thanks again, and I'll be back soon.